views and opinions expressed by Edwin are Edwin and Edwin's only, all right? Not of his sponsors, employers, baby mama, anybody he went to school with, anybody he owe money to. With that being said, enjoy the video. Oh my goodness, what's going on, everyone? Edwin Pagan here. Thanks for joining me on the Word on the Road podcast, your weekly technology care package. I am your host, Mr. Edwin Pagan. This is a weekly technology podcast that I do where I take 3 articles from the internet, usually technology related. I give you my analysis. I break them down for you, and then I send you on your way more informed and more aware of the things going on the interwebs, man. With that being said, man, I appreciate everybody who's been listening to the podcast and who was listening to the podcast, man. I hope everyone's had a great Labor Day weekend, man. Dude, did I drink coffee before this podcast? I feel like I'm talking too quickly. That was a complaint I recently got, man. My boss pulled me aside. He's like, hey, listen, buddy. I was watching some of your training, and you got to slow down, buddy. Did you drink all the coffee and most of the Adderall? You know what I mean? No, you know what it is? I've learned that I think that for me, like I took a class on training, like corporate training. I got certified in corporate training, oddly enough. But with that being said, it talks about how like people, it's a nervous tick that people do where like their voice will like jump up, and then when they get comfortable, it gets normal. But that initial like high pitched talk, it's like when you're getting nervous. So it's like, do I get nervous when I do this podcast? Is that what it is? I don't know. But then again, at the same time, when you really, really know something, you know what I'm saying? Like whether it's like the memorization of the script or like technology, you tend to talk a lot quicker because you kind of know it like off rip. You're not really thinking about it. It's like involuntarily. This is a weird intro, right? No, but that being said, man, I appreciate everybody who does listen to the podcast, man. I'm happy to be able to record today. I've had a little bit of technical issues this afternoon trying to get this podcast going, but I'm always having issues, and I'm always improving. I'm always trying to do a better show for you guys. But outside of that, man, I had a great Labor Day weekend. I went out to Fort Pierce. I spent some time over there with the in-laws, man. It's a weird place, bro. When you come from the city and you go to the country, which is like, it's not like the country because it's Fort Pierce, Florida. If you're not familiar with it, look it up. But it's not like the country, bro. It's like it's very similar to like imagine like a beach town and then like a bunch of rednecks. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like everybody drives trucks, but then everybody drives boats. You know, you got 14-year-olds who know how to dock a boat, how to put a boat in the back of a truck. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's that thing called? The hitch? They put the boat on the hitch. They're like 14 years old, know how to do that, bro. I barely know how to parallel park. I learned that shit when I was like 24. And you got people over there who can dock boats when they're like 13, bro. But no, it was good, man. It was good just spending time, disconnecting. I did some weird stuff on Saturday as well. I went to the beach in the middle of the night. We went to the beach it had to be like 11 o'clock at night, man. I posted some pictures on my Instagram about it. But went to the beach, and that was dope, dude, because like I've had always wanted to go to the beach in the middle of the night, stand in the middle of the ocean and just scream, "Take us." And me, my homegirl, and my wife, we all went to the beach, and it was dope. We got like we literally went in the middle of the ocean, started screaming "fuck" and a bunch of other things, and like got home like at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and that was all she wrote. But it was one of those things where it's like, yo, it's always nice to do something sporadic, and it's always dope just to like get a different perspective on things, because I always feel like there's a different world at night, and I've always been a night owl for that reason, because like there's just a different life that comes to life at night, you know what I'm saying? Because there's not a lot of traffic, there's not a lot of sun and the way it feels, whatever. But I've always been like a nightlife kind of person, even after like, especially when I started doing comedy, because it's just like there's first of all, I always said nothing good happens after 2 o'clock in the morning, so I never went out after 2. But it was always funny to see what happens at night. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, now we're back in full swing. Back at home, working on videos, working on a couple other things. So look into that. All right, I'll be posting and keeping you guys posted on that, man. With that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump right into the article so I can get you guys out the way. So that being said, guys, as always, if you're watching on YouTube, the articles we discussed today will be available in the description below. And if you're listening on like Spotify and on any of those major podcasting applications, it will be in the description of the podcast, man. With that being said, guys, first article of the day is coming from the fine folks at TheVerge.com, which is the FTC is investigating Intuit over file-free tax returns. All right, free file tax returns, man. Now, I think we've all been there, right? Especially when you're young, bro. You get that W-2 tax form, you know what I'm saying? Or your W-2, whatever, your tax forms, right? And you file your taxes and you get that big check. And when you go to file it, you might use like a free software that says it's free. And then you go to use it, and what happens? It says it's $40, some type of fee. And this is pretty much what's going on with this investigation with the FTC. Now, what was really interesting to see is that the FTC and Intuit had a specific agreement in place. Actually, it was the IRS. And basically it took place, or what the exchange, or not the exchange, but the agreement the IRS had was that the IRS would not develop a competing product to allow people to file taxes, just as long as TurboTax offered a free version. So the IRS said, listen, we're going to do our tax thing. You guys developed a software, and as long as you offer a free version to consumers, we will not compete with you. Fair enough. But what the suit is kind of stating is that the IRS, or not the IRS, but Intuit, really went out of its way to make sure that people could not get the free version. And this is very true. They said that analysis of the code found that the developers themselves were actually making the website so it was a lot more difficult to find the free version, which basically is kind of like targeting people in a sense and kind of taking advantage of people. Because like at the end of the day, there's people out there who have a simple tax return. It's a simple tax return, yet they're spending $80+ to file it, and that's not right. And so that's kind of what the FTC is investigating. Now, in my opinion, in this whole situation is that like it's true, and it's one of those things that like I have a certain type of hate for people who have predatory financing and predatory predatory ways of like kind of targeting people who they know aren't going to read the fine print. And, you saw that here in Florida with like payday cash advances where, they were issuing cash advances that were like at 45% interest rates, car loans on used cars that were like 56%. And those kind of things irritate me. And I feel like this is something that TurboTax was really doing to people, because it's saying, hey, if you're going to offer people a free version, if you're going to sit there and say, hey, we're going to give you a free version, it better be free. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be I have to dig through the entire website, type in some crazy code, hire the kid next door who's a hacker to find the free version, or watch a YouTube video. It should be really straightforward. It should be the type of thing where if it's under $30,000 you made that year, it should automatically be free. And so the FTC is investigating that, and it's something that I honestly think it's going to lead to it being a lawsuit and the fine folks at Intuit getting into some trouble, man. So check that article out, guys. It's coming from the fine folks at TheVerge.com. All right, cool, man. So next article of the day is coming from the fine folks at the Washington Post, which is basically Facebook tries to head off election turmoil, angering both Trump and Democrats, man. So this is a really interesting article because Facebook on Thursday announced a sweeping election initiative imposing rules on campaign, advertising, disinformation, and voter suppression. And more notably, Facebook said it will now prohibit new political ads in the 7 days before the election, although ads placed earlier can continue running, man. So Facebook is saying, you know what? We went through way too much bullshit, and part of my language, way too much bullshit in 2016, with people saying that we rigged the election and that we caused Donald Trump to get elected. So what Facebook is saying is like, you know what? We know Donald Trump's going to win. And this is not me getting political, but it's kind of the fact that Donald Trump is going to be the next president, right? That's just the fact of the matter. And Facebook is saying, you know what? We don't want to be the ones that people blame for why he won. You know what I'm saying? So we're saying, what they're saying is that we're getting all our chips out and saying no more advertising 7 days prior to the election. If anybody wants to get influence, they're going to have to do it somewhere else. And so obviously both Democrats and Republicans are going to be upset about this because they're relying heavily on this type of advertising in order to, in hopes to churn people and in hopes to, get their candidate help their candidate get elected. Now, my whole thought on this, bro, you know what I'm saying? My whole thought on this is this. I think that it's going to be very, very hard. Like, I feel like most people, you're either a Trump supporter or like you're either Republican or you're Democrat. And it's going to take a lot to get someone to switch from Democrat to Republican, right? It's going to take more than just brainwashing, you know what I'm saying? And so to me, I think that Facebook knows this. And they could easily say, hell no, let's collect as much money as possible. But it's not worth the risk that's going to come with them being, blamed for convincing people to vote for Trump. So they're pulling their cards. But I think it's silly that we think that, that the Democrats and the Republicans think that, hey, 7 days of advertising that's not available to us is going to cost us the election. It's not. I think you won people over 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago. I think people are either going to vote red or blue. It takes a lot to change people's opinions, in my opinion, but I think it's dope that Facebook is getting in front of this instead of, saying, hey, we're not trying to be on Capitol Hill this time next year talking about, well, we don't know if Russia did anything. No, we pulled it. But misinformation is a huge issue as well. And I think that with misinformation, holding both the red side and the blue side, Democrats and Republicans, accountable for misinformation, I think kind of speaks to how neutral Facebook is trying to be. They're not taking preference with Democratic parties or Republican parties. They're saying we're not going to tolerate any of it. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's really unprecedented what Facebook is doing. I think it's a step in the right direction, because at the end of the day, Facebook wants people to be connected and people to have the right to freedom of speech, to express themselves, to have any political view, religious view, etc. And they can't take preference. Even if you don't agree with one side, Facebook can't take preference, and I think that's what makes them a great platform. It's what's going to make them a platform that's going to last for a really, really long time, because they really do believe in open internet and they really believe in open communication, man. So make sure to check out that article from Washington Post, man. I know I hate talking politics, but I think it's a very interesting article, to say the least, man. So that being said, guys, last but not least, last article of the day is, oh my God, I can't see over my screen. Last article of the day is coming from the New York Times, which is student charged in cyber attacks in Miami-Dade high schools. Now, first of all, I want to say, homeboy was 16 years old, and this is on the New York Times. He made the New York Times at 16 years old. That's a hacker. God damn, bruh. That being said, man, virtual classes in the fourth largest school district in the United States were choked up by glitches this week after a 16-year-old junior admitted to a cyber attack, man. So basically, on Monday, the first day of public school in Miami-Dade County, students logged into the virtual classrooms and immediately encountered glitches. The computer network for the district of the fourth largest school in the United States seemed to be overwhelmed with traffic. And students were not able to get onto the system, and the difficulties lasted for days. And then pretty much to sum up the story, it was traced back to a 16-year-old boy. And basically what he did is what we like to call in the industry is, what we like to call in the cybersecurity industry is a DDoS attack, which is a distributed denial of service attack. Now, from what I was told, I'm not going to mention the program the kid used because I don't want to have copycats, but basically what a denial of service attack is, it's the modern day equivalent, right, of taking someone's phone number, posting it on Craigslist and saying, hey, free drugs, you know what I'm saying? And everybody starts calling that number, right? So you overload a phone number with calls. And that's in essence what this kid did. But imagine if that phone number was a school's network. And so the school's network was bombarded with traffic that prevented other students from logging in, and it was clogging up the network, which in turn brought down the network. And what the police talk about in this article is that, the attacks would stop after 3 o'clock. They start in the morning, right? And they would go down at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's almost like, imagine when like your favorite website, everyone's trying to visit it and the website goes down. That's in essence what this kid did to his school's network. And then it wasn't a very sophisticated network or sophisticated attack per se, right? And that's one of the things that security researchers are saying. It's like, hey, how the hell was a school unable to prevent this from happening, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a distributed denial of service attack, right? The school should have been easily able to block those IP addresses, mitigate it, hey, there's a spike in traffic, and detect the attack within a couple hours. It shouldn't have taken 3 days, you know what I'm saying? And so a lot of cybersecurity experts are saying, hey, what the hell is the school district doing? Who's managing their network, etc. And it kind of speaks to the vulnerability of the network, right? And so this kid is a 16-year-old. I don't know how sophisticated of a hacker he is. I can tell you that DDoS attacks, they kind of sit up there with what we like to call, kiddie scripting, which is like you found a program on the internet and you're like, I want to be a hacker, point and click hacking. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with getting your feet wet, but when you do this type of attack, you have a huge issue at hand. And like this kid is in a lot of trouble. I'm not sure what the charges were. I think they charged him with a couple of things here. I know all of them have to be felonies. The senior at Miami, the 17-year-old at Miami started logging the platform as school started and really loggy half the time. Okay, no. Where does it talk about what he got charged with? It doesn't necessarily. I think he got charged with like 3 felonies, man. But with that being said, man, this kind of speaks to the vulnerability of the school's network, and like the fact that why weren't they prepared for this? But at the same time, they don't have a lot of remote users accessing their network. And that's a simple fact, right? Like up until this time last year, or up until like, you know, COVID, schools were all in session. They weren't distributing all these apps. And so these schools have to adapt to this new type of environment. And that means a lot more equipment, because just because the students aren't on premise doesn't mean they don't need the equipment to be able to manage that type of traffic and that type of load. You know, another thing that we've been seeing in the security world, because I'm putting my security hat out on right now and kind of giving you my take on it. But another thing we've been seeing in the security world now is that, like, because everyone's gone home to work remotely, cyber attacks are up because people aren't as on guard. They're expecting people to call in and saying, hey, my network isn't working. They're expecting people to call in and say, hey, can you reset my password? And to be difficult. And a lot of these admins can, you know, say, you know what, here, take a password. It's something that happened at Twitter, and how Twitter, those Trump and all those high profile accounts got hacked. That's how one of the reasons they got hacked is because everybody who was tech support was working remotely, and they were able to social engineer these remote workers to get information off of them. So this kid, obviously, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. I think at the end of the day, these charges will be dropped. I highly doubt they're going to prosecute this kid. They'll probably do like a court diversion program. Lucky for him, he's a 16-year-old kid, so he'll be charged as a juvenile, right? And so he didn't he didn't completely take down the network. He didn't cause any damage to the network per se. He didn't, you know, change his grades. He didn't, delete files. So at the end of the day, I think they brought up a lot of charges because they don't really understand what's going on. But a lot of those charges are going to get dismissed, and he'll probably end up doing like fucking community service or whatever. But let that be a note, guys. You will get caught, especially when you download these programs off the internet and try to, commit your own little hacks and stuff like that. But woo! Damn, we got this podcast done in 16 minutes, homie. All right, I like it. What else do I want to add? That's it, man. Guys, make sure to check out these articles in detail. I do a terrible job of explaining them, but they're available in the description below, man. I want to thank everybody who's taking the time to listen to the podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave your comments below, guys. And until next time, guys, my name is Edwin Pagan. I appreciate y'all listening. Thanks for listening to the Word on the Road podcast. Take care. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. Peace.
Max, what are you doing?
Watching my dad's channel.
Watching your dad's YouTube channel?